Imagine that as a young child you made millions of dollars, spent your whole childhood working for this money, and as you grow into adulthood you realize it's all been taken from you when you needed it most. Did you have a right to that money? What would you do to take it back? Young stars in the early 20th century suffered from financial abuse during the rise of television and entertainment. Jackie Coogan was a renowned former child star who sued his mother for reparations, leading to the Coogan Act in 1939. Thanks to revisions being made, financial well-being was more secure for childhood actors. However, legislative loopholes still allowed cases to slip through the cracks as guardians failed to meet the responsibility of creating a Coogan account for their child. In the early 20th century, Hollywood and film began to blossom. Entertainment wasn't just live performances anymore. After the first movie was created in 1872 with motion toys, film expanded as they experimented with new technologies like video editing and backdrop. These developments led to the most famous movies like The Great Train Robbery in 1903 and produced influential stars such as Charlie Chaplin. In the 1920s, movies such as The Gold Rush would shoot actors into stardom almost overnight. The concept of celebrities and fame was growing and forever changed by these productions as actors and actresses got idolized for their work. As for finances, they'd make about $150 a week, which is about $2,300 today. Along with them, child actors began to make an appearance on the silver screen. The nation would adore these little stars for their talent and adorable appearances in films. However, their work would come at a cost. While adult actors began to form unions, there were no laws or protections for the young actors. Peggy Jean Montgomery, better known as Baby Peggy, had already been making millions in silent films and shorts since she was 2 years old. She worked for 3 studios, and she worked 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. From this, she made around $1.5 million per year, which is about $26 million today. Her finances were handled by her parents, Jack and Marion Montgomery. Rather than set aside the money for her, they would spend almost every penny of her earnings. Then, she was blacklisted from acting in Hollywood studios at the age of 7, putting an end to her acting career. Shirley Temple also dealt with her parents misusing her fortune. As a child, she was said to have become the most famous little girl in the United States, and her work prevented 20th Century Fox from going under during the Great Depression.
Animal crackers in my soup, monkeys and rabbits loop the loop. Gosh, oh gee, but I have fun swallowing animals.
She had made over $3 million in her career. Her parents handled her finances and had a trust set up for her. However, when Temple grew up and needed the money, she found only $44,000 were left in the account due to her father's ignorance of a court mandate to preserve her money. He instead used it on luxury cars and failed investments. John Leslie Coogan, or Jackie Coogan, was another child actor from this era. He began his career at 18 months old, but really took off in 1921 when he starred in the classic silent film The Kid with Charlie Chaplin. Before he was 18 years old, Coogan starred in 19 silent films and made millions, becoming a box office attraction. Unfortunately, Coogan could not receive all of his earnings due to a lack of legal protection of his rights and his mother's ignorance towards the responsibility of managing his finances. As Coogan grew, so did his fortune. He was one of the most renowned child actors of the time, and also became the owner of his family's production company. At this point in his life, Coogan had made around $4 million, which would be over $75 million today. When he was only 20 years old, Coogan, his father, and 3 other passengers were forced off the road while driving in Mexico. Coogan was left severely injured. The other passengers died, including his father. This became a hard time for the young star. With his father, John Coogan, now gone, his mother, Lillian Coogan, married his business manager and their family lawyer, Arthur Bernstein, after a scandalous relationship. Just a few months later, Jackie Coogan turned 21. At this age, he would be able to access his earnings, but his mother and stepfather stated they had no intention to give him any of his profits and instead spent the money on luxuries for themselves. Coogan's mother said no promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. Every dollar a kid makes before he is 21 belongs to his parents. She also argued that Coogan was too irresponsible to handle his own finances due to his struggle with alcohol addiction. After 2 years without his earnings, Coogan became practically broke, living off of only his wife's salary. Appalled by this irresponsible behavior and his mother's hurtful words, he finally decided to take action, stating, "Now I owe a duty to my wife and myself not to wait any longer." In 1938, he took his mother and stepfather to the Los Angeles Superior Court to sue for reparations. The case was full of allegations, emotions, and tension, constant back and forth between Coogan and his mother as they pled their cases. Lillian Coogan and Arthur Bernstein testified that they had every right to Coogan's money, and that he was never promised anything. Coogan stated he had the right to that money, and that his mother and stepfather were to be held accountable for their irresponsibility. After a long 18 months, the lawsuit ended in 1939. Coogan only came out with less than $126,000 from the original $4 million taken from him. All the publicity of the lawsuit, including many different news articles, caught the attention of legislators in California, who then created the California Child Actors Bill, also known as the Coogan Act. After the lawsuit, Coogan went on to be divorced and remarried 4 times and have 5 children. He continued his acting career, which included many more movies like The Prey, The Space Children, and his most famous role as Uncle Fester in the 1964 sitcom The Addams Family.
Accomplishment? Who else do you know that's 110 volts? Watch!
He passed away on March 1st, 1984, with around $15 million to his name. Now with the Coogan Act in place, it was legally required for every child actor to have a trust monitored by the court called a Coogan account. This account would hold a minimum of 15% of a child's gross earnings. Then once they turned 18, they could access the money. While the first attempt was strong, it was still excluding other child celebrities like musicians, singers, stunt persons, and it was only in effect in California. Overall, it lacked other protection. Due to these faults, many child celebrities still suffered, such as Judy Garland, who was famous for her role in The Wizard of Oz.
Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Who, me? I'm not a witch at all. I'm Dorothy Gale from Kansas.
She started accumulating a debt of around $500,000 due to her agents allegedly embezzling her earnings when she was 16 years old. This, and her own mismanagement of her earnings, would lead to her owing the IRS around $4 million when she passed away. Revisions began to be made around 1999, and it only expanded from there. These revisions began to include other child celebrities outside of acting with Senate Bill 1162. The act also expanded to other states in the US such as Louisiana, New Mexico, New York, and Illinois. Each state has their own protections and variations of the law. For example, in New Mexico, the parent is only required to open a Coogan account if their child makes $1,000 or more per contract. Many kids still suffered from financial issues, even with these revisions. Macaulay Culkin was a famous child star in the 80s and 90s, widely known for his role in the Home Alone franchise.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
It was known in Hollywood that Culkin did not have a good relationship with his father, Kit. During his childhood, Culkin unexpectedly became a star and made nearly $8 million. His parents took about 15% of his earnings, and his father even quit his job to manage his career. Culkin emancipated himself from his parents at 15 years old and removed their names from his trust entirely, then found an executor to look over his finances. He didn't even realize the fortune he had created until after he was 18 years old. Even then, the act continues to grow and be altered. The most recent expansion, California Assembly Bill 1880, was made in September 2024. This new edition now includes child influencers on social media platforms. They will legally be required to have a Coogan account and have some financial security and reassurance. This was signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom and former child star and current pop singer Demi Lovato. It went into effect on January 1st, 2025. Young stars in the early 20th century suffered from financial abuse during the rise of television and entertainment. Jackie Coogan was a renowned former child star who sued his mother for reparations, leading to the Coogan Act in 1939. Thanks to revisions being made, financial well-being was more secure for childhood actors. However, legislative loopholes still allowed cases to slip through the cracks as guardians failed to meet the responsibility of creating a Coogan account for their child. The actions Coogan took to reclaim his finances sparked new legislative steps in protecting child celebrities, leaving behind a legacy of protection and financial security. The act is constantly being improved and altered to adjust with the time, and still has a long way to go to fully ensure fair treatment and pay